All right, everyone. Boot up and suit up. We have a situation. We have technically received a defeat from Hannibal the animal, the oh-so-lovable guy who crossed the Alps. And let's not panic. Let's all calm down. Maybe everything will be okay. So, Hannibal has won of a victory. This is from History March. Rome's greatest enemy, the Second Punic War, Hannibal. So, without further ado, let's find out how we hold. Everything's going to be okay, right, guys? I don't think so, boss. I don't think so at all. So let's enjoy this video in a 3, 2, and let's get our learn on.
Although the defeat at the river Ticinus is far from a major loss, it nevertheless reinforces the apprehension with which the Romans would view Hannibal from now on, and it sets a psychological tone which would be felt in the much larger battles to come. After the defeat at Ticinus, the Roman
Debatable.
Senate looks to save face by blaming Gallic allies for being ineffective. Taking comfort in the fact that Hannibal has yet to face the vaunted Roman infantry, long as his arrival to northern Italy restores confidence. Hannibal now faces armies of both Roman consuls.
Oh, great forefathers of Rome, give us a victory to end this nightmare.
It's early December 218 BC. Publius Scipio's life still hangs in the balance due to wounds he sustained at Ticinus. But, ironically, his troubles are only just starting. His defeat at Ticinus has major consequences for Rome. It directly caused the garrison at Clastidium to surrender the town's massive grain depot. This strips his army of food reserves and disrupts his supply lines, making any advance into enemy territory a risky venture. At the same time, Hannibal finally replenishes his own reserves, which were dwindling ever since he descended from the Alps, right until the clash at Ticinus just a few days ago. The damage to Roman prestige raises the danger of further defections. What's worse, Gallic tribes are flocking to join Hannibal, enthused by his ability.
Oh, we'll get those goals in one way or another. Maybe not in this lifetime, but in the next.
To defeat the Romans, and his softer administrative touch. Scipio has no option but to retreat, realizing he is deep in hostile territory. He marches to Placentia and makes camp across the Po River. Hannibal pursues and catches up 2 days later. Learning of his arrival, over 2,000 Gauls allied to Rome rise up in the camp and attack Roman soldiers, killing many in their sleep. Before sunrise, they cross the Trebia to join Hannibal, bringing with them the severed heads of slain Romans.
Oh, we're gonna make sure those Gauls pay. I call upon the Giuliani. Oh, great goddess Venus, give us a descendant of yours. I wonder who I'm referencing.
Using the Gallic defection as propaganda, Hannibal makes sure to spread the word that Rome's allies are joining him en masse, thereby boosting his popularity among the tribes. Scipio again moves south, not wanting to risk being caught in the open. A day later, he reaches the hills and sets up camp in a strong position, with hills protecting his flanks from cavalry attacks. Then, he settles in and waits for reinforcements. By mid-December, the two consuls join forces. Discussing how to confront Hannibal, Scipio argues against taking the field, stressing that Longus's troops lack experience and need additional training, having been raised less than a year ago.
Yes.
Longus disagrees and sets up camp a few kilometers north from Scipio's position.
No, Longus, you fool, you clown. It's not your time to shine, baby.
Just as eager to fight as Longus, Hannibal maintains his camp on the flat plain and surveys the potential battlefield west of the
I'm loving the graphics here, but I mean, come on.
Trebia River. Meanwhile, he sends a raiding party to ravage the area along the river, suspecting that Gallic tribes living there, who pledged allegiance to him, are now negotiating with the Romans. It's unclear if the Gauls intended to betray Hannibal, but with their villages now being raided, some of the tribesmen appeal to the Romans for help. Longus promptly sends 1,000 Velitus across the river to attack the raiders. With Hannibal's troops scattered across the area and encumbered by plunder, Roman troops start picking off small groups of Carthaginians, quickly routing the raiders. Seeing this, troops on duty outside Hannibal's camp rush to the aid of the retreating raiding party. The fighting is fierce, as both sides want to prove their superiority, but the Roman Velitus are soon forced into a fighting retreat. The skirmish escalates rapidly, spreading across a large area. More and more troops from each side join in. Pockets of clashes develop as neither side is able to shore up its ranks. It becomes apparent that the chaotic skirmish might turn into a full-scale battle that neither commander will be able to control. Hannibal takes the initiative. He stops sending more troops into the fray, trying to avoid a battle that he did not plan and can do little to influence. He then audaciously rides out in person and rallies the scattered troops. He pulls them back and arrays them in a line outside the camp.
No!
The Romans advance, but Hannibal restrains his men
No!
from charging the enemy.
No!
The Romans too halt their advance, refusing to attack the well-positioned Carthaginians, who can now be supported from the camp with projectiles and fresh troops. The day draws to a close.
Man, it kind of reminds me of that fight with Anchorman, where Ron Burgundy says, man, that got out of hand real quick.
Hannibal demonstrates his shrewdness by not committing to an uncertain battle. And by restraining his troops, he exhibits what he would become so famous for: his extraordinary ability to exercise control over his army. Romans retire towards their camp, satisfied at scoring a victory against Hannibal's troops, their morale and confidence partially restored. Longus, who is described by sources as having an aggressive temperament, shows his eagerness to do battle as soon as possible.
Idiot!
He won't have to wait long. At dawn, Roman guards sound the alarm. The Carthaginians are attacking the camp. Awoken to projectiles flying over the palisades, Roman troops are ordered to get ready for battle.
Okay, so obviously, like, look, I know where this is going to lead. This was all a trick to get the Romans out of their camp. You know, they haven't eaten, they haven't rested, and this was Hannibal's ruse to destroy the army of Longus. The moron.
Empty stomachs, the men rush to form up in front of
No breakfast. Come on. Don't fight on an empty stomach. You need your fuel, boys.
their tents in frigid conditions. Longus sends all 4,000 of his cavalry against the Numidians, closely followed by 6,000 Velitus. But the Numidians soon break off. As the fighting moves north, the fast cavalrymen engage in hit-and-run attacks. Longus marches out with the rest of his army to meet the enemy.
Idiots,
Heavy
no!
infantry forms into 3 columns, each some 3.5 kilometers long. They lag behind the cavalry and Velitus, but make steady progress.
No!
Numidians continue to avoid a direct confrontation with the Roman cavalry and
You know when you see something and you want to stop, but you can't stop it?
Velitus. Meanwhile, Hannibal gathers his officers to lay out his plans. He offers words of encouragement and orders them to ready the men for battle. Well rested and well fed, Carthaginian troops take to the field. To the east, the skirmish continues. Numidians find themselves backed against the Trebia. They start crossing the river as they continue to pull back, pursued by the Romans. Arriving with the infantry and eager for battle, Longus orders the army to deploy on the western bank. The three columns begin crossing, chest deep in the freezing water. Meanwhile, Hannibal sends 8,000 infantry forward to support the Numidian retreat and to provide a screen for his own deployment.
I mean, chest deep in the water. This is whose dumb plan is this?
He then moves his main line about 1 kilometer towards the approaching Romans. Across the field, Longus's army takes several hours to deploy. After fording the cold Trebia, his men are hungry, soaked, and standing in the near freezing temperature. The Roman consul places his velotus in the front, forms his veteran infantry in the center, with Gallic and allied infantry on either side, and
Idiot.
cavalry on the flanks. Hannibal deploys his infantry in a thin line. Gallic allies in the center, with Spanish and Libyan infantry on either side. Elephants flank the infantry, while the Numidian and Gallic cavalry is further wide. Around noon, Longus orders his entire line to advance, confident in the clear numerical advantage of his heavy infantry. The Romans advance in good order. The flat plain, free of any obstacles, seems an ideal battleground for their style of warfare. Meanwhile, Hannibal holds the line, letting the enemy come to him. Skirmishers get into range and begin exchanging projectiles.
Hey, Longus, shouldn't you be there with your people? You coward!
With Balearic slingers in their ranks, combining with javelin men, the Carthaginians quickly gain the upper hand against the Roman velotus, who used up many of their javelins while pursuing the Numidian cavalry earlier in the day. Skirmishers from both sides withdraw through the gaps as the main lines of infantry close in. The heavier, more compact Roman infantry pushes the Carthaginian line back, causing heavy casualties to Hannibal's Gallic infantry in the center. On the flanks, Hannibal orders his cavalry to push forward. Some of the Roman horses become frightened by Hannibal's elephants, causing disruption within the ranks. But groups of Roman velotus, specially trained to deal with elephants, mix with the cavalry and attack the terrifying beasts, wounding and killing many.
Good. Kill the elephants. I'm sorry. I think elephants are beautiful animals, but kill them. Kill them. Kill them. Kill them. Kill them.
Eventually, the Numidians manage to overwhelm and advance against the Roman cavalry. But despite Roman flanks being pushed back, the Carthaginian center is crumbling. Veteran legionnaires are hacking through the Gallic infantry. Without any reinforcements available, it seems that Hannibal cannot stop the onslaught. But what the Romans don't know is that while surveying the field on the eve of battle, Hannibal personally picked 2,000 elite troops and positioned them in a dry riverbed, hidden from view. Now, they emerge from the ravine with perfect timing, just as the Numidians finally rout the Roman cavalry, poised to encircle the enemy. Hard pressed from the...
Again, look, I'm a true Roman, but Hannibal is just one of those brilliant tacticians who was able to take advantage of Longus and his stupid plan, not scouting ahead, and he should have listened to Scipio.
Front by elephants, Carthaginian infantry and skirmishers, the wings of the Roman infantry buckle as the Numidians attack their rear. Meanwhile, Hannibal's center collapses as the veteran Roman heavy infantry cuts right through the Carthaginian line, still unaffected by the encirclement thanks to their discipline and organization.
Get out of there.
However, realizing the battle is lost, the legionnaires retreat back across the river to Placentia, maintaining their battle formation. Roman casualties are heavy, likely around 28,000 dead or wounded, while the Carthaginian losses are much lower, between 3,000 and 5,000.
Okay, whatever.
Losing most of his elephants. possibly all but one, is the only major loss for Hannibal at Trebia.
Good. I mean, I'm sorry for the animals.
In just a matter of weeks, Hannibal outperformed both Roman consuls with superior planning, near-perfect coordination, and control of his troops. News of the defeat rocks the Roman Senate and causes widespread panic among the population. The damage
Not yet, Hannibal at the gates, but soon, 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 soon.
to Roman prestige persuades many more Gauls to join Hannibal. Additional attacks on Roman outposts and towns cause further disruption, before cold weather finally forces armies of both sides into winter quarters. But as Hannibal's devastating campaign in Italy gains momentum, a seemingly minor event in Iberia could threaten the Carthaginian war effort in the long run.
And we're going to pause here. So, what can we learn from this? First of all, if you got a big battle, make sure your boys have a good hearty breakfast. Make sure they eat right. You know, you can't function without fuel in your stomach. That's what my mama always says. You know, if you're going to be doing work, any kind of heavy labor, make sure you got some food in your stomach. You know, I always make sure I have 2 cups of coffee, some fruit, you know, some toast, some bacon, all that good jazz. I mean, that's the stuff that gets you through the day, the stuff that gets you through the morning, the stuff that gets you through any kind of time. So there you go. Always listen to mama after all. But all right. Not 1 but 2 defeats. Everything's going to be fine. Everything's going to be fine. Let's not worry about it. Everything's going to be fine. And it's not going to be fine. We're in for a long war. May the gods have mercy on Rome. For Hannibal. Hannibal is at the gates. Defend the city. But what are your thoughts on this series? We're going to continue on the rest of it. This is just part 4 of a... I know there are right now 18 parts of it, so here's hoping that we get a updated version 2 coming around very soon. But here we go. Hannibal's at the gates. Are we ready? Are you ready to fight? I know I am, as should every other single true Roman, as you should.